And we are The Nonprofits, a show where we discuss current events and social issues from a skeptical humanist perspective. Hello, all you wonderful people in YouTube land. The Nonprofits is a product of the ACA, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the separation of religion and government and promoting positive atheism. You can support us on our Patreon if you are financially able to do so. We get it. Everybody's got their own means and everybody has other things they want to support. But if you are able to and have the means to support us financially, please consider doing so at patreon.com/thenonprofits. Tell us what you like and what you don't like in the comments or email us at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. You can also engage with us on our Discord at tiny.cc/ACA Discord. Like, subscribe, and ring that god-pucking bell to get notifications of our latest videos. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hi.
I've been away for a while, so it's great to be back. What do you guys
Welcome back
this week?
Hey, welcome back, Puck.
Malty, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I've been on Discord. Now, I was going to say that we had our first snowstorm up here in the Pacific Northwest, but it came and went in under 4 days, and now we're back to normal. So that is definitely not something that is anywhere comparable to what's going on in Texas right now.
How about you, Cynthia? Are you snowed in?
Of course, I'm in Chicago.
Yep.
Snow is everywhere. But we do have like a reprieve? A reprieve. Yeah, we have a reprieve because it stopped snowing, and we actually got salt trucks to come out and plow our streets, so we're able to move cars. So that, yes, so we're very excited about that. One of the things that we often do in Chicago is because we are petty, we put lawn chairs in front of our parking spaces so that other people can't get them. I don't know any other city that does this, but hey,
I've never even heard of that, but now that you mention it, that might be a good idea.
Yeah,
I have a neighbor. Yeah, I have a neighbor that parks in front of my house all the fucking time. Parks their boat in front of my house. The one vehicle that never moves. Yeah. This is on the road. But lawn chairs, you say?
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that one down. That's
Take a lead from the pettiness that is Chicago. Get some lawn chairs and put it out in your pucking driveway and in your pucking parking spaces.
Everybody's gonna be doing that now. And Rudy, how's your week going?
Since everybody's talking about the snow, yesterday I woke up to a foot of snow, brand new foot of snow. So me and my partner had to shovel that out of our long ass driveway. That was great. But then the neighbor kid was playing in the snow, and he'd set up a mound of snow, was sledding down it, and then we built a little snow fort together, and it was wonderful. And he told me his birthday's coming up soon, and now I'm knitting him a scarf. So I'm just having a ball.
Aw,
nice.
It's a nice story.
I want to complain about this the snow and situation that's going on here in Cincinnati, but I know that it pales in comparison to everything that I went through in Alaska. The difference being that in Alaska, they were prepared. I mean, they know it's happening, so they have they have the crews ready to go the night before. They have the equipment. They know how to deal with this kind of stuff. They're equipped for it. Whereas Cincinnati and Texas, they're not nearly as equipped to handle something like this. I want to complain about how it snowed so much. I took a couple of extra days off work, and my wife decided to take some PTO, but it pales in comparison. And I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank the crew that's working so hard to try to get these shows online this week, despite the power interruptions and internet interruptions that are going on in Texas. This is actually an exciting moment for me because by my count, this is my 10th ACA show. So I have hit double digits. Yay.
Very nice. Very nice.
Big
But
up.
but don't be fooled by the shows that I've got because I'm still Puck from the crew, and crew is always where my home is going to be and my heart's going to be, and I love working with them so much, and I'm honored to that they've let me be so much of a part of the organization. So
You should have said block, crew block.
yes,
Okay.
I know, but we
Dang
don't
it.
want to worry about copyright strikes and all that other fun stuff. So
Okay,
anyway,
well, okay.
anyway, we got a lot of fun stuff we're going to talk about today. We're still not done talking about QAnon. We're also going to talk about
Aw.
we're going to talk a little bit more about unity and exactly what the Christian role is in unifying the United States. Then we'll have a little bit of fun at the end because we're taking some steps in the right direction. But Malty, kick us off here. Let's talk about a fun little article here. What do you got?
This comes to us from Right Wing Watch. The title of the article is coming up right now. Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I want to read this whole thing. Quote: "I've been plotting. Lead Stop the Steal organizer promises to restart rallies, punish his enemies, and build new society for Trump supporters." This is about Ali Alexander. He is a force that he'd liked to think was to be reckoned with on Twitter, that is. This guy is interesting, to say the least. He has pushed his Twitter followers. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to make judgments on someone that I don't know, but I tell you what I can do is I can pull up what I pulled off of his Wikipedia account and what I've heard from other news media organization of who this guy is. So he is a native-born Texan. He in a interview with a Christian blog magazine internet, he was saying that he was born to a Muslim father and a Christian mother, and his father left when he was 2 years old. For other things we know about him is that he did graduate high school, tried to go to college, both at Criswell College, which is a ultra conservative Christian school. They didn't have not confirmed that he'd ever gone there. And then he also tried to go to the University of North Texas, dropped out of there, had some run-ins with the law in 2007, 2008, and then decided to become a political activist. He worked in some runs for office. I think that's how he started to go in, was with the McCain campaign. But then he just starts getting really strange. I think people have said that he's a grifter, just looking for money. And that's what he's doing, is he's building these rallies or promoting these rallies, asking for support. Like you go to the stopthesteal.us, it's down now. And the only thing that you'll find is 5 different ways to donate to him, which all are closed now. He's having a very difficult time since he was one of the main people in one of the rallies on the 6th. That would be the Wild Rally. Then he actually, during the storm on the Capitol, he uploaded a video of him saying that he did not disavow this. A couple days later, he did disavow it, but then again, that's when PayPal, Vimeo, Facebook, Twitter, all the major news organizations or social media organizations decided that he was no longer welcome.
Cynthia, how are you wrapping your mind around this?
Okay. Well, first off, I had no idea who Ali Alexander was. Like, I don't really frequent QAnon conspiracy social media talking heads. So a lot of whoever happens to be like, out front as far as like in this space, I'm clueless. Like, I only found out what QAnon was, I wouldn't even say like maybe like a couple of months ago. I'm so far behind, and I guess it's because, like, I'm so wrapped up in my own fucking business that I'm not really privy to a lot of this stuff. So, but when I found out exactly what QAnon was, and just like, just hearing about like some of these conspiracy theories, and I even found out what spirit cooking was. I was like, what the hell is that?
What the hell is that?
People, I guess it is like a devil worship thing. You cooking like human and eating it and drinking. Oh, child, I don't know. It's crazy.
Oh,
Anyway,
this is
the-
the cute,
the child
QAnon
blood
baby.
thing?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
child,
Oh,
the
God.
yeah, the stuff
pineal
that they say
gland.
that we do, the stuff that we say
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
do
yeah.
on Saturday nights with a bunch of friends and red wine. So,
Well, we're not doing it now because we're all social distancing,
this is
obviously.
true. So we got to do it on Zoom. So there you go. But what? So I mean, so first, like when I, like when you guys like sent this article, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is a black man. And I mean, like, but the thing about it is that when it comes to like a lot of these, right wing QAnon conspiracy theories, not necessarily saying that black people don't do this. That's usually not who you see. So first I had to wrap my head around that, like, wow, you're black. Okay. So next I had to kind of like just, kind of listen. I was listening to the video and about him saying that he did not disavow this, and he was saying that he said, this is peaceful. And I'm like, are we watching the same thing? I did not see anything peaceful about anybody ramming through windows, shoving themselves through doors, and stealing podiums and putting them on eBay. I didn't see anything very peaceful about that. So I'm not really sure where he got that from. But, there was a couple of, quotes from the article that I kind of wanted to highlight. One of them was when he said in one of his rants that this racist, bigoted, anti-Christian, anti-Southern, anti-Republican, anti-conservative, anti-human smear machine. It was just a lot of terms that did not really seem to go together. Like this thing, one thing is like not like the other type thing, especially like, usually racist, bigoted, and anti-Southern are not something that you would put together. Usually like Southern, racist, and bigoted actually go together. History told me that. And especially when you talk about the anti-human smear campaign, I that was like tripping me out too. And one of the things that was really killing me a bit is when he was talking about that he really wanted like free press to go away. And I'm thinking to myself, sir, that means you go away.
I think what he's talking about, though, is when the ABC, CBS, NBC, all the major players started to take a look at him and actually putting some attention on him in a critical manner. And when he's talking about the smear campaign, losing everything, this is after Facebook booted him, after Twitter booted him. Is that correct?
I think so, but
I
even
think
like,
so, yeah.
yeah, but even with that, like, this like freedom of the press is often tied into the First Amendment rights, right?
Sure.
As far as like, being able to have free speech. So oftentimes, if we take that away, that means that even with your what's a nice word to put bullshit? I don't know what else to say.
Just say bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
Okay. With your bullshit, that saying that without impediment, right, would be something that would be against you as well. But then again, I'm pretty sure that ship has sailed, especially since he's been deplatformed. But I mean,
Pretty much.
yeah, but then I don't really have that much of a problem with that, especially like when a lot of these voices are like elevated, that they incite riots and insurgencies and treason type behavior. It's not
Yeah.
okay.
No.
Yeah, to piggyback off of you a little bit, Cynthia, I had heard of this guy before, but it took me a bit just to be like, you are really a young Black American man who has grown up in the southern United States, and this is the position you're taking. Like, it seems so obvious to me that he is promoting people and voices and ideas that are actively working against his own self-interest.
Right.
Like, he's like helping platform the Proud Boys. That
Mhm.
doesn't
Right.
make any sense.
No.
Why would you how does that match with what you want for the world, for yourself? That
Yeah,
Just-
he's a bit of a odd one out. Starting using the name Ali Akbar as his nom de plume when he's trying to be a provocateur and
Wow.
a
Wow.
conspiracy theorist.
Wow.
Then that's before he changed it to Ali Alexander. I mean, your father leaves at age 2. You're raised in southern states.
he
I don't
might have
know.
a grudge.
Yeah.
Some identity crisis might be going on. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I'm pulling things out of my ears.
No, so it seems to me that, like, I can't put together a cohesive worldview out of his rhetoric, right? And
Sure.
especially one that, as you guys pointed out, one that he stands to be in a favorable position in. It seems almost like that's not the point. The point is these people aren't going to think very deeply. They hear the buzzwords like that sentence that Cynthia read out, and they see someone who's angry and they see someone who's prominent, and in a certain way, it looks like that person is winning, right? If you have that posture, if you have that attitude of we're going out here and we're fighting and we're standing up here in confidence, that might be worth a little bit of donations. Of course, until all of his things fell out. But to me, like, Cynthia, you said that you just became aware of QAnon in the past couple months. I've been working really closely with Objectively Dan and Truth Wanted. Plug. He's a huge QAnon fan, and oh boy, if we ever get a QAnon caller, we're gonna have a blast on that show.
Oh yeah.
We've
Yeah, I
been
bet
following
you
this
will.
for a long time, and it doesn't seem like they have really good solid epistemology, does it? And they don't have a lot of things to back up why they believe that their leader is actually who they think it is. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say any names on here, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. And they always seem to, and as you pointed out, yes, that's I see what you did there. That's clever. And it always seems like they, and by they I am actually talking about a specific group of people, always refer to a they as in a not very specific group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that very conspiratorial mindset. Like, I hear Ali Alexander talking about this stuff, and I hear, I've heard this QAnon conspiracy stuff, and I sit there and I'm like, how could you possibly believe that that's true? And then I remember my own beliefs when I was in a cult, and realized that I also don't know how I believed that, even though I believed it at some point in my life. I don't understand how I believed that now, looking back. I think that this whole like MAGA cult mindset QAnon thing really raises to me the point that we need to make people more aware of what a cult is, of how cult control works, of how they start, of the sort of tactics that are used Because when people think of cults, they think of like, oh, well, a bunch of people with cloaks and daggers standing around doing satanic rituals with like a virgin or something. But like, I mean, it could involve that, but really it's just an abusive relationship that involves a lot more people than two. So I think that if more people were aware of what cults are and how they work, it would be a lot easier to get people to steer clear of stuff like this. At least I would hope.
Yeah, and I love how these people are the first people who will say you have to do your own research.
Oh gosh,
right?
yes. That
But you
kills
must
me.
only do your own research from this very carefully selected group of approved materials, right?
Yeah, I did my own research as a Jehovah's Witness. I did it all from jw.org, but I did all my own research.
Which is a fascinating apologetics website, by the way, if you've never really sunk your teeth into that. Boy, howdy, is that ever a piece of work, right? But just because we brought it up, let's very quickly go over the BITE model for how deep cults go. Cults are about controlling the information you're allowed to get. And if you look at the BITE model, BITE, for the things that stand out as for what makes something a cult, they want to control your B, behavior, I, information, T, thoughts, and E, emotions, right? And one of the best hallmarks that you're probably getting into something cult-like is when they start telling you that they have the right information and you can't trust anybody else. Because the truth will stand up to scrutiny, and the truth will stand up to investigation. And the very first time you get someone who doesn't want you to meaningfully investigate, or says they do, but only wants you to investigate using the approved materials, you might want to take a better, closer look at what you're looking into. So, I mean, seeing that there's so many parallels between falling into something like QAnon and other conspiracy theories and religion, do you think that taking care of proper epistemology is a better tool rather than fighting it from the top down and fighting against oppressive religion and oppressive politics? Instead, if we go from the bottom up and teach people better epistemology, maybe this stuff will just go away. What do you guys think?
I don't think it'll.
Rudy, go ahead.
Rudy, go ahead, Ruby.
All I was going to say is I don't think it'll necessarily go away, but it'll certainly be a good start. And the people that are debunking this stuff will not be just a handful of people on the internet like us. It'll be like your mom could go to you and be like, no, that doesn't make sense for XYZ logical fallacies. That doesn't make sense. I think that it would be, I feel like if we're arming people with those tools, we're sort of fighting it at the ground level. So it won't necessarily go away, but we're definitely arming ourselves with knowledge much better to fight against this stuff.
The internet is a wonderful thing, definitely. So it's difficult to keep somebody constrained within the BITE model when you have access to all the information that we have attained throughout history on your phone.
But they have an apologetic for that, though. They say, the reason they're so widespread, the reason they're trying to suppress our message is, well, they wouldn't be suppressing it if we weren't onto something. Right? The reason they're shutting us down and the reason they're shutting us up is because. So how do you fight that? How do you make us more visible, but also make us not look like the bad guys?
Well, I also think it's like stuff like this, having conversations with people, who actually lean to this particular sensibility and asking questions to them to kind of get their critical thinking juices flowing. I remember having conversations with people who kind of leaned on towards conspiracy theories and started to ask questions about when it came to claims, because my whole thing always has been, well, what was the data or the evidence that was behind the claim that is being made that this is this. And, that's oftentimes where those conspiracy theories fall short. And I even wanted to reference, if you don't mind, there was an article that I read recently in Vice magazine in Vice, who was talking about a family member that actually fell to a QAnon cult. I believe that the person was talking about their mother, and they actually quoted from a doctor. I believe the name is Dr. Stein, who wrote about cults, and they had like a 5 point definition of what a cult is. And they said, one, the leader is charismatic and an authoritarian. Two, the structure of a group isolates people. Third thing is total ideology, like you only need me and no other belief system that has any relevance whatsoever. The fourth thing is process of brainwashing. And the fifth point that Dr. Stein says is creating deployable followers who will do what you say, regardless of their own self survival interests. So
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely ask any person who are privy to people who think this way or who garner to said conspiracy theories is to really engage them into asking questions using sound epistemology tools in order to kind of help others kind of think their way out of theories. And especially like when we use the terminology theory, it's very anecdotal, right? It's not necessarily like in a scientific sense. So if we can kind of get people, I keep on saying this because because I was even thinking about myself personally. That's kind of how I got out of religion. I started to think about my beliefs and to see if they actually held water. And when I started to think upon these things, I started asking questions and then researching, I realized that a lot of the things that I believe did not, hold water. I can't prove it. I don't have any empirical data to back this up. So why believe it? And I think that that's something that, if we are able to speak to people like this, that we can kind of get them to do as well in the best way possible, of course.
Multi final thoughts to wrap this up.
Ali, yeah, I think what he stated in the last that last post that he had put when he went on his rant very quickly. They've done a great number on my life. They've cost me tens of thousands of dollars. And yes, that's what it is. It is he's
Are we all gonna do that?
looking, yeah, they they those yeah that this is a gravy train that he was trying to hook onto, and he will not let go of. It's because that's what he's saying he's planning on doing, is organizing more rallies about this completely debunked stop the steal type rhetoric that he is going to continue to try to push. I don't know if he's going to have the backing. He doesn't have money. He does not have money. He tries to be around people that have money. Everybody that so good luck, Ollie.
Not really
Rudy,
though.
last thoughts.
Not
Good.
really, not really.
Just piggybacking off of Malty saying good luck. Not really though, actually. Like
Right.
I hope you fail at that. I really
Right.
truly do.
Right. And my final thoughts will be sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, no, that's well, okay. Let's this hearing about this is kind of scary, so let's keep it scary. Cynthia, lead us into Article 2, please.
Sure. So this is an article that was from NPR entitled "A Scary Survey Finding 4 in 10 Republicans Say Political Violence May Be Necessary." So with this article did come like a small, like 2-minute podcast that actually talked about this fringe group of extremists that are emerging from the Republican Party that, actually espouse to saying that they feel like their life their traditional way of American life is being threatened, and feel that, if we have to, if we don't necessarily have elected leaders that will protect America, the people must do it themselves, even if it requires violent actions. The results came from a survey from the Center on American Life, and the article actually remarked on like how really scary like some of like these particular numbers came out to be. They did find that the survey had nearly 3 in 10 Americans, including 39% of Republicans, agree to take, that if they need to take violent action against what they feel is a threat on American life, then, so be it. So oftentimes these are people who more than likely were either championing the January 6th insurrection riot, or they were participants. And I don't necessarily think that this is an ideology that's going away. And I always wanted to ask myself, ask one of these people who kind of like garnered to this ideology, what exactly is a traditional American way of life that you are concerned about leaving, like yeah, like what exactly is this way of life that you're concerned about, like leaving you, and what is the fear that's driving this, and especially like these are also the same people that would call themselves like Christians, and they feel that also the Christian way of life is being threatened, which happens not at all in America. Like that is something that does not happen. So I'm just very curious to like, what is this fear? What is this traditional way of life that you are so concerned about? I mean, like I can conjecture all day long. I have my thoughts, I have my ideas, but I want somebody to kind of, tell that to me. Like I am concerned about losing this. I
Yeah.
am concerned about something to that effect.
Cynthia, I got some professors that I want you to look up and read their books. And oh man, thank you. Whitehead and Perry is the two professors. One's at Purdue, the other one's at Clemson. I think those are the two universities. Man, but they have done so much great work on Christian nationalism, because that's what you're describing. Definitely. And what do they think? I mean, that's what I was, I looked at that question and the way it's put on the article. I think it's a little bit clickbaity. I do think it's a good statement that if you're saying, do you agree or do you disagree with this statement, to try to see where people are being polarized. But I mean, to protect America, well, what does it need to be protected from? I mean,
Right.
and define America for me, please, because I want to make sure we're talking on the same things.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would say, as somebody who is, I consider myself, at least among some of my peers, to be somewhat radical in my political ideology. And I find it really, really funny that conservatives think that Joe Biden is just going to bring America to its knees. And those of us who are actually radical leftists are like, Joe Biden is barely left of center. He's not going to do that. You are going to, whatever you think is about to change is probably not going to change. It's probably going to be exactly the same, or like maybe slightly different. Like, calm down. What do you think is going to,
yeah.
like,
Joe Biden never had a left policy ever. Like ever.
I don't know what they think is going to happen. Like what?
Well,
and like you
they
were saying,
think-
Cynthia. Oh, go ahead.
What I think they think is that they are going to lose their privilege. They have started to see this loss of privilege because, they believe that that America is a Christian nation, that government should be taking active steps to keep it that way, and that that as Americans will lose our identity and our freedom if we do not preserve our cultural inheritance. Cultural
You're using
inheritance.
all the buzzwords.
Oh,
All the
I
buzzwords.
I know
love
this is
that.
good for the search algorithm.
You
Keep going.
know,
Yeah. I'm
bigotry
feeling
and
very
privilege.
dog
That's what I'm seeing.
dog whistle politics going on right here. Very
That's
Southern strategy.
Yeah.
Yes, continue.
They definitely have their own language. You know, like when I was I was interviewing for a job, and the guy wanted me to make sure I knew that this was a family-oriented business, and I'm just like, yeah, it was dog whistle, 100%. You know, of saying, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, you're heteronormative and of the right color.
And you know what, just to tie this into what we were talking about before, about information control from cults, one thing that they will do is use these specifically loaded buzzwords and buzz terms, so that if you do decide to search for it, like, you know what, do a search for irreducible complexity and see how far that gets you. Okay, because the only thing you're going to find is going to be a whole bunch of sites from like AIG and other young earth creationist sites. So it looks like you're doing your research, but it's because they're controlling without telling you that they're controlling what you're searching for.
Mhm.
So just to tie that into the last article, because I like doing that. We actually do have some sort of method to the stuff that we do over here. No, and like what gets to me about this is, like, it took a long time for me. I've only very recently got into the atheism scene and the politics scene, and so for a long time, it struck me as very bizarre that, like, how does religion and Christianity specifically map so well on top of the conservative mindset? Like, how do those two just line up so well? There's a lot of rich history in American government in the 1950s about how this lines up. But as you guys were talking about traditional American values, it just makes me laugh, because America is only about, what, 250 years old?
Right.
And that's
What tradition?
that is the new kid on the block. And a lot of the things that we associate with traditional family values really aren't. They may have been at most like 2 generations old. Here's your trivia question for the day. On primetime television, who was the first married couple to be shown sharing a bed? Because you remember, in I Love Lucy, they very clearly had separate beds, right?
Well, I was going to say
Wasn't
wasn't it I Love Lucy that they
It
didn't get
wasn't. They
together?
had separate beds.
Dick Van Dyke
Oh.
Show?
The
Was it the Dick?
Flintstones.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
I
Yeah.
thought it was the Dick Van
You got to
Dyke
go way back for
Show.
this, but yeah. So when you think about, like, back then, it was very understood that you had, even as a married couple, you had separate beds.
Mhm.
And the idea of co-sleeping, that's a lot newer than you think. And again, because of work with Objectively Dan, he loves looking at the stuff like this. The conspiracy behind engagement rings is a lot newer than you might think. So yeah, I got one too, but still.
Oh no. I told Nathan not to buy an expensive ring. I was like, you know, it's a scam. I will probably lose it. I couldn't care less. Just put a piece of metal on this finger. I don't care what it looks like. And he still was like, well, it's tradition. I'm like, it's not a real tradition.
No,
it's
it's
made
not a
up.
real
You know
tradition.
it's made up. And he was like, I know, but people are gonna give me shit if I don't. I was like, fine,
All
I can't
tradition
stop
is
you.
arbitrary. Okay, the only
Right.
thing tradition is one person who tried something new and another person who went with it without understanding why. That's
And then
the
they
only thing
bullied everybody
tradition is.
into doing it for some reason.
Yeah, and my ring, by the way, is tungsten carbide, because this is a working man's ring. Gold is too soft, but tungsten carbide, man, you can run this over with a truck and it's going to stay in one piece.
I just want a ring.
bucking
It'll
tradition.
snap before
Right.
it crushes. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Right.
yeah.
right.
So that's what gets to me about tradition. It's like these people are talking about traditional family values and traditional American way of life, which isn't even that old. So don't be
Right.
appealing to me. Tell me you like it. That's fine. Tell me it's what you prefer. And if you prefer it for your family and that's the kind of family structure you want to have, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to have, if you want to be in a monogamous relationship with someone of the opposite gender, cool. If that's what you want for you, that doesn't mean that the rest of us have to buy into it.
Right. And when you pull tradition into it, we're like, oh, are we going to start going tradition? So we're going to talk about a family with kids and then a couple of mulatto kids with the slave woman that's also there.
Ooh.
Like, do we want to go there? Do we want to go there with tradition?
Go there.
Yeah, go there. I'm about to completely lose my pucks. This is a good time to do it. This is great. And Malty, you look like you're just holding back a volcano there. So
Go.
Oh no,
everybody else is
no,
unleashing. So go for it.
no. I mean, I'm just I'm hearing all you're saying, and it just keeps on going back to Christian nationalism to me. And yes, they do say that they want to have a specific gender roles. You know, they want to have specific roles for different hierarchy of appointments. You know, you have the lead. It has to do with a singular and concise message. Not necessarily that that message has anything to do with reality, but that it is put forth by a charismatic leader, and that it is consistent, and that it is echoed. And so, yeah, I'm wanting to dig a little bit more into this on the upcoming segment. I'm going to talk more about this this Christian national values and taking America back for God.
Foreshadowing. That's good. No, this is why I love getting to hang out with you guys, because like I start out for those who don't know how this works, we actually find out what articles we want to talk about quite a ways in advance, and then we'll show each other our notes on what we want to talk about. And this is good, but we never get through our notes.
Oh, no.
There's always so many tangents, and then something's gonna spark on somebody, and it's gonna pick up. So we one of the things that I've been paying attention to, I do pay attention to the comments and the feedback that we get, and we have like greatly been improving the chemistry and how much we just play off of each other and laugh and enjoy. And I get it. It took us a little while to get there, but now look at how much. As devastating as this is what we're talking about, we're getting a lot of good conversation in. We're having a lot of fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
So you keep going though. Like Rudy, you had something more you wanted to add to this. So
The last thing I really wanted to add to this, more piggybacking off of Malty, bringing back up Christian nationalism, because that's where this comes from, really. Like, if there's anything that at least helps define the traditional family values and this surprising thing that apparently is coming from mostly evangelical white Christian Americans, apparently, is this idea that, like, a violent takeover could be okay. That's probably fine. Maybe I wouldn't participate, but like I wouldn't be against it. I think a lot of that does come from the Bible, because, you know, I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian household, total pacifist. The only people that I would physically fight would be my siblings. Like, those are the only people that I would ever try to physically fight. I've never been a violent person. I've always felt like violence isn't the answer, or war, what is it good for, etc., etc. I was totally okay with the notion of like Armageddon, though. Like if it's God's war, it's fine. And that's what these people think. They think it's God's war, so it's fine.
let's play off of that a little bit, because one thing that again, tangents that we never expected. One thing that you notice if you read Genesis from the beginning is that almost immediately there's a group of people that it's okay not to like, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't just start with Cain. No, the next 7 generations are going to be cursed also, right? And then it didn't take very long for it to, okay, let's just start over from scratch with only 8 people. But even then, very quickly, there was a group of people who it's okay not to like, right? So it seems very consistent with the Christian message that there's a group of people, changes it by generation, obviously, but there's a group of people that it's okay to treat as if they're subhuman, right?
And
Got a place to blame.
Yeah, and to your point, Puck, these are the very same talking points or rhetoric, specifically that the Southern Baptist Convention back in the 1850s, when they broke away from the Northern Baptist Convention, utilized in order for them to prop up the institution of chattel slavery. Like, you know, Rudy, I checked out your video that you did on the Negro Bible, or the position of like the American Negro versus
it was from the Mormon Church.
Yes,
that one.
Yes. And and how they were basically tying back what you were mentioning, Puck, about this a group of people that we don't like, that is like a descendants of Cain. right?
Mhm.
The
And
mark of Cain, yeah.
yes, the mark of Cain, and and basically how the mark of Cain, like all of a sudden, just tied to Black people, right?
Yeah.
And so, since the night tied to these particular people, then it's okay, as you mentioned previously, to treat them subhuman. It's okay to treat them like mules. It's okay to treat them and keep them as property because because God don't like them and neither do we. But they got to be used for something. So this is what we're gonna use them for, right?
Right.
And
They're being punished by God, so it's fine if we punish them too.
right, we're doing God's work when we do that, right? Cool, that's great. So, but one of the things that I get concerned about, like, even when I ask this question, like, what exactly is traditional American values? And as we all mentioned, and that's all we know, America, the United States itself, is not an old nation. Like, it has not been here forever and ever and ever. Amen. So we started out with this divisive ideology when it came to who we're going to prop up and who we're not. And so oftentimes, like when I hear, especially like, conservative Christians, Christian nationalists use this terminology, it concerns me because America was traditional values was not about equality. It was not about equity. It was not about even, treating, even though it says in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal, that was a complete, total farce. It was a lie because that's exactly what they didn't do.
All white male landowners were, though.
Hashtag
And that was
ADOS.
Yeah, but
I wish we had time to talk about the 3/5 compromise and a whole bunch of other things like that.
Oh,
This one, you guys have no idea. We leave so much on the table every time we have one of these episodes. There's at least like 5 different tangents on the notes over here that we didn't even begin to cover. But unfortunately, it is time to move on to the next. You know what? We probably have a little bit more time on here. So, Malty, close this up for us. What are your last thoughts on traditional American values?
Traditional American values. You mean the genocide of indigenous peoples and chattel slavery? Yeah, no thanks.
Leave it in the past.
Leave it in the past.
Oh, goodness. Last thoughts, Cynthia?
Oh, I just want to, I think you said hashtag ADOS. I know that does, for one portion, does mean American descendants of slavery. But moving on from that. Yes, I definitely feel and think that we need to push in a different tradition in America.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that we should just prop up. I mean, we're not going to like get rid of Christianity anytime soon. So I'm all for just propping up the ones that aren't bigots and are not cool with like doing another crusade. That'd be great. Just don't do another crusade. Don't do a war for God, please.
Well, speaking of propping up churches, let's move on to our third article. Rudy, take the lead on this one.
Oh, Article 3. Let's see. So this article comes from the From Religion Foundation. That always trips me up. I always say freedom of religion, but that doesn't make sense for this. Freedom from Religion Foundation. The title says, Freedom FFRF urges Biden administration to drop SBA church funding. So basically, this is just a formal plea from the FFRF to the Biden administration, basically going into why this totally contradicts the gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Wow, I'm having a total brain fart right now. One of those amendment things. It's the
Constitution?
Yeah.
The Constitution?
Yeah,
Okay.
that. Thanks. Wow, I don't know what just happened in my mind. We had this whole
What's in your
discussion
cup,
about
Rudy?
politics and everything, and now I'm just like, the Constitution? What's that? Okay, anyways. But basically, the point is...
we'll blame what's in it. We'll blame it. It's all good.
Yeah. I mean, there is alcohol in this cup, but, but just not enough to impair my brain the way that my brain was just impaired. But anyway, basically, this sort of letter explains why exactly this is in conflict with the law of the land and why it needs to stop. And it's funny because in my own personal experience, I didn't know much about politics. I didn't know much about how the government was run as a Jehovah's Witness because that wasn't a concern of mine. The world's going to end soon. Who cares how the government works because it's going to be gone tomorrow. But when I first sort of learned about this, like, oh, churches like don't have to pay taxes and stuff and they get like funding from the government. Well, that seems like a pretty obvious violation of the separation of church and state. That seems really, really obvious. Like, I wasn't even like fully an atheist at that point. I was just not a Jehovah's Witness. And I was like, that seems like a pretty obvious contradiction. I don't know why they're letting that happen. That's crazy. And I know that even as a Jehovah's Witness, I would have thought of that as like, oh, that's a sign of the end times. The kings of the earth are fornicating with Babylon the Great. Because, well, the kings of the earth being actual governments and Babylon the Great being false religion, even though my own religion would also have benefited from that. So, but yeah.
We're quoting Avenged Sevenfold songs now. That's good. That's nice. I like that.
Oh, wait, is that like a line from an Avenged Sevenfold song?
Yeah, in fact, the name Avenged Sevenfold is a biblical name. They got
it from us, not the other way around. Don't get it twisted.
No, that's a really. If you guys are ever bored, just look up Avenged Sevenfold music. It's a little scary, but kind of fun.
Oh, I know. I like some of it.
No, and I guess where I'm going with this is like, I get it that there are these big churches that obviously don't seem like they need any additional funding. And I think somebody pointed out in their notes that the Catholic Church ended up being one of the biggest takers of money from this fund. But I don't know. You know me, I'm always going to look for the gray areas, right? And I think about really small churches that have a staff of like 3 people who, they double as community centers. And these are people who, they worked too. And they're not out there doing a lot of power grabbing and stuff. They're just trying to serve their community. Don't they, shouldn't something be done to make sure that they have some financial security as well? We like to think about the big churches, and obviously, we can think of the ones that don't need it. But what about other churches? What about smaller religious communities?
Yep, sorry. Yeah, I think that it's not. I think that when you brought up, obviously a lot of smaller churches and bigger churches even can be something of a community center. But I think community centers are community centers, and churches are churches. If there isn't something in place within that town, city, community, or whatever that's filling in the spot for a community center, then they need a community center. They don't need more money for a church. I mean, at least that's what comes to mind for me. And it's not, and there are plenty of other not-for-profit small organizations that just do their little thing and try to help out, and they get by without that money. They get by on donations. They get community support. Why can't churches do that also? We're
getting a really angry note from our producer. Says, nah. What do you say? Leave the money for secular stuff. Let God donate. And I think it was one of my favorite activists, Bono from U2, who says, the God I believe in isn't short of cash. Right.
No. Right, exactly. I said, why do you have to go to the government in order to keep you afloat? I thought that Jesus paid it all. But one of the things that I was really also very when you even think about like the pay, what is it, the PPP loan, payment protection plan, I believe that's what the whole acronym stands for. There was a lot of businesses that could have used that money that didn't get it because of this free for all money grab that came from churches specifically that did not need it, and also corporations and other bigger businesses that did not need that money. I read an article not too long ago specifically about the businesses that closed during COVID-19. Did you all know that 41% of Black-owned businesses closed, and they're more likely they're not coming back?
Huh.
That's sad.
And
wow.
Yeah, and I mean, but and just think about like if we already have like a portion of the population that is not adjacent to wealth, and they are trying to actually run a business, and and even before that particular time period, it was difficult to do. And now you're in the midst of a pandemic. I mean, we even know that like places that thrive upon patronage of people going out, like bars and restaurants, have to completely move their entire, business model just because they're not able to utilize their spaces in their traditional manner, not
Yeah.
traditional American values, but just
Yeah.
tradition how they run, right?
No,
So,
no, I know exactly what you mean. My mother-in-law owns a bar in our tiny small town. Uh, and the governor said, okay, you guys can deliver alcohol now because that's pretty much the only way these businesses are going to stay open. So I was like, ooh, I'm going to order me a margarita to go. But
that sounds
yeah,
good.
they pretty much had to change everything. And I still am wondering how it's kind of going to go back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But it's going to take a while before that even happens, right?
Yeah.
So, and I understand that they're trying to revamp the Heroes Act and really like, infuse this capital, especially in small business, because it's like obviously it's like very much so needed. But, I don't know how confident I am specifically of the president not necessarily still using some of the Trump era policy when it comes to who gets the money,
Hmm.
and the thing about it is it's like I'm kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to churches, especially since we talked about community centers. There's a lot of faith-based organizations that run things like homeless shelters, and and even like in my line of work, since I'm a social worker, I say that just about every show. But regardless of that, I know that oftentimes like we rely on the city, especially to help find shelter for homeless population, and oftentimes they use Catholic charities. So it's kind of like what hill am I willing to die on when it comes to this? But at the same time, I can't help to think that if we had more of equal playing field, especially on who we fund, who we don't fund, who is tax exempt, who is not tax exempt, that we can possibly get way more secular organizations to fill in the gaps when it comes to these very much so needed social services that's out there, and also be able to help fund businesses, small businesses that really, 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 really need this money.
And I'm going to add to that part of the what should be included in that is education about how to get access to these programs, right?
Exactly.
Like in the sphere that I run, a lot of YouTube creators and a lot of Twitch content creators, a lot of them don't realize that if you incorporate and because you're going to get a 1099 from some of these if you get a certain amount every year, right? And if you incorporate a lot of the things you use for your business, like your internet service and your webcam and the space that you rent from your house, you can use those as legal tax deductions. But a lot of people don't know that. The information is out there, and it's not like it's against the law to do this. People do it all the time for their businesses. But if you don't know about it and you don't know how to access this, then it's gonna feel like they're out to get you as a content creator. It's like, here I am trying to run my business and I'm being taxed. That no, it turns out that you're only taxed if you run it as a business. You're only going to get taxed on your end of your profits and all the stuff that you use to run your business. Like the lights that I have up here and the really nice computer that I have over here. All that can be tax deductible because it's a business expense.
Mm-hmm.
So awareness of how to access these programs are I would say is a critical part of not just let's set aside money for it, but let's set aside outreach so that the people who need it most know how to get it and can get it fastest. Malty, we've left you out of this the whole time. So what do you got on this?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Decrease the barrier to entry so that the services that are available for people are actually available for people to actually, because it takes some work to get all those bells and whistles, all those I's and T's dotted and crossed and rung and whistled. I guess just to follow up on what you all were saying, the the nation's nearly 200 Catholic dioceses received around $3 billion in the paycheck program.
Yeah, they did.
It's
That's a
possibly
lot
the
of
Roman
commas.
Catholic Church
Ugh.
is the biggest beneficiary of this program, and it's a organization that has is sitting on a large amount of equity. So why the heck they couldn't have dipped into that and be helpful instead of I was going to say something about blood sucking, but let's just say not helpful.
Go there.
We are not holding back tonight, Malty. So I see no reason why you shouldn't be able to just go ahead and
I'm
unleash
just gonna be me.
your 4-letter
The
vocabulary
tea
upon
I'm
us.
It's
just me.
scalding tonight.
Yes, this is.
Yes.
I have my Zen.
Yeah, a
Yes.
lot of us are snowed in right now. Like we have 0 pucks left to give. Let's
That's
just
right.
let's just lay it out. Okay, so I want to. I want to think about this though, because we can all agree that the churches don't need access to this, right? But it's very difficult to come up with the wording on legislation and not get bogged down in the details one way or the other. Like assuming that we can never get it perfect, where the people who need it get it and the people who shouldn't have it don't. We're going to have to err one way or the other. So do we err on the side of everybody who needs access to it can have access to it, but we also know that there's going to be some slipping of the cracks and some people who shouldn't get it are going to get the benefit? Or do we err on the side of being extremely careful, saying we want to make sure that only this core of people get it, even if that means some people who truly need it and deserve it don't get it? At least none of these people got it. We're going to have to make a mistake one way or the other. So is this just an understandable and acceptable error that, it's like they found a loophole? Okay. What do we do about that? And should we do anything about that if it means that all the people who need access can get access?
Well, I think that they should separate these fundings. If you're going to and I was even remarking on something like this earlier to another person when we were talking about legislation. Language matters.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that any type of legislation that's going forward is going to have the proper language in order for it to accomplish what we want it to accomplish. And when I think of, mega churches and especially the Catholic Church, and we already know that like a lot of their slush fund money is going against like lawsuits right now for other things.
That might
Hanging
get us
out.
demonetized.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So moving along from that, language in legislation should be to the point where if we're going to create a fund specifically for businesses that actually, fall into this particular criteria, then we're going to create one for this so that, the people who actually need it would be able to take advantage of it. And also in government, you can do this with legislation, be able to create marketing campaigns and other things of that nature. Like I'm thinking specifically, wait, hold on. Let me roll back
You're
my
talking about
mind.
PSAs for people so they know what's available for them. Public service
Yes.
announcements.
Public
Yeah.
service announcements could be one, and I'm even thinking like back in 1862 with the Homestead Act, the government created county agents in order to teach people who took advantage of the land grants how to mechanize their land.
Mm.
There could be a part of legislation that has something similar to that, that can be like an outreach to different businesses that are registered with the IRS, that can say, hey, we know that you're a business of X, Y, and Z, and we want to make sure that you are well aware of this particular legislation program that was actually created in order for you to be able to take advantage of money so that you can keep your business afloat. I mean, like, the government has ways in order for them to be able to fulfill that space. But the problem is that, unfortunately, there is not a champion in government or even in congressional members' ears that are actually pushing for these things.
Mm.
It's more so like, if you got more money and you got the lobbyists up there, that's who they're going to listen to. And it has to be more engagement from constituents like you, like I, who are voters, who actually push more to our elected officials to be more of an assistance to people who need programs like this the most.
I could see that working in two ways. That you have people that are trained to help small businesses succeed, um, but also needs to be a amount of transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
So when money is just dropped into a black hole that has um, that no accountability, um, no books need to be kept out in the open, that's just rife for abuse. It's
And it
Exactly.
just
has been.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
No, and so that's one of the biggest criticisms of churches is they don't have to open their books, right?
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
that's yeah,
Mhm.
and it's weird because the vast majority of Americans would vote and say that they should have some transparency in there also. So it just makes me wonder. It's like, should
So
something be
why
done
isn't that
at the
happening?
local levels?
Yeah,
It's like, because
Right.
like it doesn't have
Right.
to go into the federals just yet. Actually, I don't know. So I know we have a lawyer waiting in the wings right there. So now I can just smell right now that he's like
Somebody call Johnny.
rapidly looking up. It's like, wait a second, is
Yep.
there any, is this federal law about nonprofits, or is this I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just curious as to how this
Puck,
works.
Well, we just
I saw
played
that in
one
your
on
notes.
TV.
Yeah, I saw that on your notes where you were saying most people would like to see the accountability of churches. Where are you getting that from? I want to dig more into that.
I'm gonna have to see, because when I come up with these notes, I forget that I might have to get called on to,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
that I will have to add. And our wonderful crew is more than happy to take any other articles other than the ones that are noted here and put them into description. And I keep on forgetting to post my sources on those
So
also.
we
I
will
will
do
get
that.
that out there for you. But
I'm sorry, I don't mean to do
no. Call me on this, okay? Absolutely, we must hold each other accountable for not
Cite
just
your sources.
blathering off a bunch of nonsense. Cite your
Mhm.
sources.
Yes.
You
Yes.
called me on it, and
What's the units on that?
failed.
Yeah.
Citation whore. I always lean to that. I know I am.
Okay. So here's my final question on this, and we'll use this as a wrap up. Because churches, as much as it pains me to say, that churches do provide some services that, as an atheist organization and as atheists, we don't. As a sense of community gathering places. There are some places that are working on it, like the Free Thought Library. Even though I've never been there, seems to have been a really fun gathering place, not just during the tapings of the show, but just a fun place for like-minded people to gather. But as an atheist organization, as a global atheist association, we really don't have that. So what can we do as individuals to simultaneously show support for people who rely on small churches for that, but not validating and giving funding to the churches?
Hmm.
I mean, start making a nonprofit for the needs you see in your area. Start something. Take action. If you see a need, do it. Don't wait for a church to do it. Don't ask if there's a church doing that in the area. Just if you see a need for something, then do it.
Mm-hmm.
Find a need and fill it. I like that. It's simple and direct.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think we can do?
I always am let's go back to policy and being that constituent that actually pushes for proper policy when it comes to these spaces. because like there's a lot that we can do as voters to hold our elected officials accountable when it comes to things like this. Like, who really does, like, pay attention to bills that come out of Congress? Who really does engage their congressperson when it comes to certain things that we care about? I mean, who goes to town halls? Or even like, and a lot of them are on Zoom. I mean, well,
Mhm.
you give a puck, so you're going to be there. But I'm running with you. I'm running with. I'm sorry, but but seriously, I mean, like, unfortunately, uh, we as a body electorate happen to be a bit more too apathetic when it comes to political engagement, and I think that oftentimes it's because that we just have our minds made up that, oh, the government just going to do whatever it wants to do, and we have to be like, no, we're the bosses, and including those who are living secularly, without necessarily being attached to a faith-based organization, have to demand accountability, and also money to go into programs, organizations, things of that nature that can provide a lot of the same things that we're wanting to have in our communities that churches may fill, but they don't necessarily have to. Like,
Mhm.
who says a church has to run a food pantry, right? Who says that a church has to run a shelter? Who says that a church even has to run a job training services, whatever? Like, not secular organizations can do these things too. They just need the funding, and I know it's out there, but we already know, going back to traditional American values, that oftentimes more faith-based organizations are favored when it comes to this money, and we have to get somewhere where we say, not so. This needs to change, and you got to start doing it now.
Yeah, I definitely think you can start at the local legislative level. I think we have, if we look around the world, we look at the Northern European countries where social programs are at their most funded, and we see that it works. We see that when, and there's knock-on effects that are really nice, like plurality and equality of the sexes and equality of pay and decrease in bigotry and lower attendance in church. When these programs are instituted in a way that supports and takes the I'm not going to say takes the places of the churches, but fills those roles that the churches have glommed onto.
Mhm.
I think if I could also add my, I know I already gave my finishing thoughts.
No.
But
Go.
piggybacking on what Malty said, in the same way that when people say defund the police, they mean, can we just have enforcing the law be the police's job and not all this other crap?
Mm-hmm.
And we could like give that to people that are like specialized for that. In the same way, let's just make church be a church thing, and all that other stuff we can put in secular institutions that can take care of all that other crap. So the churches don't need our money, essentially. Unless you
Damn
attend
right.
that church, they don't need your money.
Well, you know what? We're gonna wrap this up here. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and we're finally going to actually add it as a segment. However, we do not have an interstitial for this segment, so owing to the idea that we actually do listen to readers' comments, this one said that Cynthia should sing every time she comes on. So, Cynthia, if you would please give us the music as we lead into the next segment called "Step in the Right Direction."
Okay. Oh, hold on. I was thinking about how to do this all the time. Damn.
This is our high quality graphic
Yeah.
department here.
Okay.
Are we-
Yeah. Step in the right direction. Step in the right direction. Yeah. Step in the right direction. Let us step, step, step. in the right direction.
I like it. I like
Greg,
it.
I hope we were rolling tape on that one because I think we could use that. An opinion piece on religionnews.com. Christian nationalism cannot unite us. And I'm just going to read a couple of lines from this as a direct quote. Put simply, Christianity does not unify us as Americans. We are and always have been a country of many faiths and of people who don't claim any faith tradition. Yay, atheists. Our religious views have never defined our political citizenship thanks to legal protections of Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution, which prohibits religious tests for public office. What's more, that mindset creates in-groups and out-groups within our faith communities and between them. This us versus them mentality in the hands of violent extremists can turn deadly, as it did on June 17, 2015 at Mother Emanuel AME Church, on October 27, 2018 at Tree of Life Synagogue, and on January 6, 2021 at the U.S. Capitol. Christian nationalism tends to shrink down Christianity to fit it into an American-sized box. The domestication of Christianity is particularly detrimental when a bold Christian witness could help our attempts at unity. So here we have someone who's leaving an opinion piece on a religious site who's saying the same things that we are. And I want to call this out and say, you know what? I appreciate that these voices are being put out there for them to listen to. I do feel this is a valuable step in the right direction. If you've been listening to the impeachment hearings as much as I have, you know that one of the big buzzwords that was passed around is unity and uniting as a nation. Let's talk about unity. The question that I had for you guys is, what can unite us?
I think that if there's any one word that America loves that we can reunite around, it's freedom, right? Yeah, that's a word that everybody could go, yeah, freedom, America, freedom. But with that freedom comes the responsibility to not put your desires, your own ideas of how America should look for everybody over everybody. Like your own idea of how it should look for you is not the same as it should be for everybody, and that's the point, right? Like I also liked that in this sort of in this opinion piece, the author sort of calls this contrast between violent Christian nationalism and nostalgic Christian nationalism, which to me is just like God bless America, like that kind of Christian nationalism, which seems harmless, but it is two sides of the same coin,
right?
You know it, and I think that it is so valuable when somebody who is a Christian, an American Christian, can call that out. I think it's always very valuable when somebody can call out their own side when they fuck up, or I'm sorry, when they puck up. So I really enjoyed this piece just because I think it's very important to hold your own side accountable.
Malty, what can unite us?
What can unite us? I would say education starting at K through 12. That is across the board good education. You know, I've am the product of two teachers. I've had some teachers in my in the Discord. There's some high school teachers. I've met middle school teachers in the local skeptic meetup group. These are very impassioned people who are trying to imbue with our children the ability to think rationally, the ability to get along with each other. And so I think it takes work from first day of kindergarten or pre-kindergarten, which actually should be a thing for everybody. But that being said, when I read this piece, the thing that really popped out to me was, you know, that now I'm finally happy that this Christian nationalism is starting to get some focus. I have just been listening to a conversation and interview with again these two professors, Whitehead and Perry, and how the work that they've been doing in trying to find out and figure out what Christian nationalism is. In to the Christian nationalism, them themselves, the Christian nationalists, and actually trying to tease apart what these different, what different people think about this, because it's a complete kind of mindset that we're trying to deal with here. And what they found was that there's like 4 different groups of people. There's the ones that are really behind this, that believe all the Christian national rhetoric is true. They're the ones that will be out there on the front lines to lead this charge. Like you were saying earlier, Puck, the ones that no matter if it is, or it was you, Rudy, sorry, that was going against your own personal best interest because someone else is telling you to do it. Let me find my notes here. I'm so sorry. Here we go. Those would be the ambassadors. These are the ones that most strongly embrace this Christian nationalism. And then on the other end, you got the rejectors, the people who completely are opposed to the idea that Christianity and American civil society should be combined, right? But you also have some that are in the middle. You've got accommodators and you've got resistors. So accommodators would be I'm a Christian, but I'm not that type of Christian, right? And the resistors are not people that are rejecting this completely, but it's not completely. It's okay to have a Christian symbol in public buildings. Maybe not the best, but it's okay. So now that we know that these groups of people, at least we have some way of targeting them, maybe for some better information, or or at least to know what these people are thinking. I don't know. There's really an interesting read with their book.
I'm gonna have to check this out now. So that's
yeah,
great.
Taking America Back for God.
Cynthia, what can unite us?
Well-being. We all need to be on that particular wavelength, that we
Be well.
be well-being. This really wishing that for all of us. Like there shouldn't, one of the things that I always appreciated from working with any type of organization is a flat organization where you have a less of like a hierarchy, and you actually empower your employees to be leaders. And the reason for doing this is that now everyone has a vested interest in the company doing well, because if the company does well, then I do well, and you do well, and we do well together, all that great stuff, right? And it's the thing about it, but one of the things that I appreciated about this particular piece is the accountability, realizing that Christian nationalism is not going to be a uniting factor, because Christianity is not a united factor. I would like to take us to the Bible, if you don't mind. Please, everyone. Turn.
Nobody knows the Bible like atheists do. Let's see what you got.
Hello, come on now.
Oh, you got to do it like you're giving a sermon. Come on now.
Oh, right. Okay, hold on. Let me go back into Minister Cynthia mode from back in the day. Whew. Okay. And if you please turn in your Bibles to Luke chapter 12, verse 49. And the Bible says, I have come to set the world on fire, and I wish it were already burning. And verse 53 says, Father will be divided against son, and son against father, and mother against daughter, and daughter against mother. And so coming back to that,
I shouldn't have asked you to do that, because I'm so triggered now.
That was spicy. That was
Right. I triggered myself. How about that, Rudy?
That hit a little close to home. Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
Yep.
Glad I was never indoctrinated.
Yep,
I'm glad I was
yep.
never indoctrinated.
Yep. 10 years ministerial training. Anywho, the thing is that even if we are looking inside the book itself, that, the basic instructions before leaving Earth, this is not a unifying book. There's always been an othering. That nation needs to go. That nation is against God. That nation is against the children of Israel. And this particular ideology has perpetuated from generation to generation and has made it into the American body politic in the form of Christian nationalism. So no, it's not going to unite us because the Bible does not unite us. The Bible talks about specifically, Jesus coming towards the Jews, and I know that Paul said, preach to the Gentiles, but that's only if you accepted Jesus. So if you did not accept Jesus, you're fucked. I'm sorry, you're pucked. So, so this is something that we have to keep in mind, and good on the author for saying, what, this is not going to work as far as like being an ideology that's going to bring us together. It's always going to be a dividing of people who don't necessarily look like you, think like you, or live like you. And that's always going to be a problem. So I will always say, like, what? Stay out of people's lives, stay out of people's bedrooms, let people be who they are. Okay. And let us actually create a community on actually lifting each other up, because it's best for all of us when we're lifted up. Well,
I feel like you low key went back into sermon mode a
I,
little
I,
bit
I,
there at the
and
end.
I'm okay
I
with
did.
that. I am shockingly okay with that.
did.
I'm feeling the Holy Spirit.
Like as the conductor,
don't feel that.
as the conductor, I'm supposed to like try to keep pace on everything and try to keep everything on track. But
you're
I
like,
just want to hear more of the sermoning, and I'm happy to give up some of the wrap up time because I think that was the best closing we could possibly have had. Unless Malty and Rudy, unless you had a quick 30 seconds to wrap up your thoughts.
I'm
on
sure
the
not
show.
going to do better than that. I'm out.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the only call to action that I have this week then is we are working on making this a wonderful show. We put in a lot of work on this. We put in a lot of time and a lot of conversations. A lot of effort goes into this, except of course for the 30-cent interstitial that we just did. But we listen to you, and we want to hear from you, our viewers and listeners, and we want to know what you genuinely think of the show. We are open to any criticism and all the compliments, like the one about Cynthia must sing every episode. That's cool. We'll work on that. Let us know what you think of our show. Let us know what you think of our content. And there are many, many ways you can do this, starting with our email address, nonprofits@atheist-community.org. If you email that, we will make sure it gets to all the hosts. So if you have a specific question for a specific host, you can put it in the subject line, and we will make sure it gets to the person that it needs to get to. I'm also active, and Malty is very active on our Discord. So if you go on our Discord, there is a specific set of channels just for politics. So you can go to our Discord at tiny.cc/ACA Discord. A number of other nonprofits hosts, even the ones who don't show up here, are more than happy to engage in our comments in the YouTube section, and a fantastic place to engage with any of these and your own topics of conversation. And you can even post articles there that you would want us to consider by going to our Facebook group. This is on let's see, what is it? Facebook.com/groups/nonprofits-live. Please let us know what you think. Give us your thoughts. Give us anything that you would like us to cover in the future. Thank you, Malty, Cynthia, and Rudy, for being here tonight. This is wonderful jamming with you as always. And again, as with every episode, we have like 5 pages of notes that we just left on the table. So we're going to have to do this again sometime.
I guess
You
we
bet.
will.
Thank you very much.
Pretty much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. We'll see you next week.